Hey, I'm Dylan Ali, and you're watching 2SEATER Radio.
Check. We live from the 2SEATER headquarters with another episode of 2SEATER Radio. I got a special guest. I'm excited to have you here.
Hello, everyone.
And what's up with you? I got my good friend Dylan Ali, formerly known as, or you don't even want to publicly say?
I don't care.
Oh yeah, formerly known as Dylan the Gypsy.
I prefer, not to go by it, but, if that was a chapter, so I can't just pretend it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just learn from the past.
You were saying what you go by now?
Yeah, I was going to ask which one was it?
Oh, it's Dylan Ali,
Okay.
the government, and the cool last name, so I decided to commit to it.
Started rocking with that,
Yeah.
Well, I guess we can start right there, and then I can lead into it. So, what was the change of heart, the sudden consciousness that made you say?
It wasn't even really a sudden consciousness.
Yeah.
It was really like, girl, you about to be 25. I used to get bullied on Tumblr over my name all the time, but I was so
Did you?
Yes.
Fire.
The Tumblr girls. Oh no. The Tumblr girls used to gather me, but I was so stuck in my. Not even because it's the slur against the Romani, but I was just like, at the point when they were dragging me for this, it was like in the midst of friggin' Trayvon Martin and all this crazy shit, and I was like, no way I'm gonna let a swarm of white folks bully me into doing anything.
Yeah.
But then I researched the actual history behind the genocide and why it was violent, and then as I grew older, I continued to realize yo, I can't just randomly jack this. I'm not from this part at all. I'm not from Miami. So yeah, I dropped it.
And then, like you said, Dylan Ali is definitely smooth.
Yeah, it's a cool name.
And one of the things I've always kind of mentioned, because we've had hella just conversations off the record, is just your ability to create a brand and your ability to just create an image and a feel. I think people know you to stand for things. People know you for looks you give. People know you for your talent as a DJ. So you're just multifaceted in that way. So has it been easy to just make the quick adjustment, and where do you think that knack for just creating a standout brand comes from?
I think it comes from having a family that instills real values. And that's not necessarily to say that people don't have real values. That's just me personally. I know nobody in my family was perfect, but there was still some semblance of you don't stand for something, you're for anything, basically. And on both sides, on my American side and on my Ethiopian side, they've had to fight for equality and fight against some type of oppressor. And it was a matter of life and death. So I feel that struggle necessarily, I grew up pretty comfortably, but I feel that sense of don't ever be too comfortable.
Yeah.
Nothing is for certain. Anything could be taken from you. And at the end of the day, this is still the white man's world. So you have to navigate through that as a black person, regardless of where you are. So I think because they put me on game at such a young age, I was really able to peep what I wanted out of my life and what I would like to see changed in the little time period that I'm on this planet.
What has that global view? You talk about your family, you said from Ethiopia?
I'm from the DMV. My mom, she's Ethiopian, and my dad is from Queens.
Okay.
What has that global view done for your career as a model, DJ, stylist?
I think it just really made me a people's person. I think I try to understand as many different types of people as possible, as long as they're not violent in any way. So I think being able to just growing up around so many different people kind of forced me to look at things from different perspectives. And I think being able to do that creates space for real bonding and real discussion and finding out new things about a person, I don't know, I try to make people feel as comfortable as possible, so that's one thing that I got from my upbringing as well.
So like she said, Brand, I met Dylan in the DMV, DC area. You know, she's talking about standing up in consciousness, and I know that's really you. You know what I'm saying? I know that's like seriously you. But we was definitely like there partying, like
I'm a party girl.
yeah, we was like having a good time, like. So I want to just speak about you coming from the DMV and taking that, because I've seen you do like you do sets in Paris, UK, like.
Yeah. It started off small. So like I threw my first party when I was 19. No, it wasn't even 19. I was like 18. I randomly asked my big homie Marauder, he's a DJ back home.
Yeah, shout out Marauder. We actually had him
Yeah.
on 2SEATER out in DC at full
He
service.
like got me my first little controller and taught me how to use it.
That's all
And
right.
then I practiced through a warehouse party for Ghost Skate Day with my friends because we were little rugrats running around DC. And a bunch of people came out. A lot of people came out. 3 different fights broke out. That's how you know.
She was getting rowdy.
And that's when I knew, I was like, damn, I was able to do this on the first shot. Imagine if I took this seriously. And from there, I committed to it. And the rest, as far as like traveling to like other cities and other countries and shit, that was just like, I already just living in New York had a massive bunch of connections just from partying. So like when it was time for me to actually visit these places, I had already been doing enough in New York. People would be like, all right, cool, like I can hit my mans up, be like, oh, my homegirl from New York, she's a DJ, whatever. They're able to put in a good word, and then like after a few gigs and coming back and just meeting enough people, I was able to like kind of create my own little audience up there. But it definitely took like a few years. Like my first trip to Europe was like 2017, and I probably had like 3 or 4 gigs. And, like my last one.
That's still fire though. Like 3 or 4 European gigs, girl from DC, like you were like taking that shit worldwide. Let's shot a clock to that real quick. You know what I'm saying? Good party vibes. So I say you multifaceted, right? But I have you here. Like, what are you when you see Dylan? Are you familiar with her work?
I think I met her in New York DJing.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say so. And I seen like her on the various model and shit.
Okay, so like that's what I want to get to the bottom of. Like we know you DJ. We are coming to the hopefully tail end of a quarantine pandemic type of situation.
Yeah.
But in this time frame, I think you've kind of shown your creative abilities beyond nightlife and DJing. I want you to describe, like, you consider yourself a stylist, a creative director, a model.
More so in the creative director realm. I think because I'm just starting out, I'm just working within my means. So that means like, okay, I have access to X amount of photographers, X amount of brands, and X amount of studios. So what can I do with whatever I already got? And then from there, I was able to get into a flow, start collaborating with larger groups, start doing group things, start doing things that I'm not necessarily involved in. I'm behind the scenes. And yeah, I think like it really started off with me getting bored with taking fit pics. Like I realized like, okay, I still have an Instagram, I still have an audience. I was starting to lose a lot of followers in the beginning of the pandemic because I wasn't posting because I just thought it was stupid. Like, what am I, like I don't look cute, I'm in my house, I'm not going outside. I'm also not a liar, so I'm not about to just pretend like my life is fabulous when I'm depressed. Like, it just never gave that.
So the shit was hard for you, like, to start this
So
shit?
then, like, I realized, okay, I miss modeling a lot. I also miss doing fit pics. How can I find a way to combine the two in an artistically engaging way that's one, going to engage my following, but also, like, stretch myself creatively. So, like, learning how to make wigs, learning how to style them in drag hairstyles, and teasing them and cutting them, and learning how to get deeper with makeup, learning how to, like, put together a pitch deck or an EPK, or learning how to pitch a shoot to a publication, or like just random PR skills, like business skills, life skills, administrational and organizational skills that I feel like I already had but didn't necessarily tap into because I was so caught up in DJing. So I feel like this definitely allowed me to really just tap into that, and now I have a stronger vision of where I see myself in like 10, 15, 20 years.
That's hard. Like, I know you just, so obviously there's like live stream events going on, and you just did something with Vans. And in the past, I've seen you work with like other brands too. So have those relationships through your DJing and through nightlife and through curating like with parties and shit like that. Has that allowed you to be able to still access these bigger, well-known brands to like execute your style and creative direction visions?
I think honestly, like they were both pretty separate. Like I think some people I started getting more modeling gigs around like my 20th, 21st birthday, and that's when like DJing started to take off a little bit. But at the same time, I think like I was already recognized outside of the DJing shit just for fashion. So it wasn't really much for me to be able to build that network. And then also another thing that I've been big on is just like I don't need to just beg for the big person to work with me when I have like really talented friends. So like a lot of my friends went to Parsons or FIT, and I would see them in their little studios just designing shit. So being able to like help support them and like model for their little thesis projects and like them actually becoming good. Now it's time to like, okay, let's come to the shoot. Oh, boom, she's really good. And then also because she's been watching me grow and I watched her grow or them grow, whoever I'm speaking about, whatever, with this figurative designer. Because we have that relationship we're able to build collectively, that's why I don't feel uncomfortable just being like, yo, what are you doing in 2 weeks? Let's just shoot some shit.
It's super organic. Right?
Yeah, it's always organic, and that's how I create. Like I never wanted to feel like I'm forcing anything or I'm trying to perpetuate a lifestyle that isn't necessarily aligned with how I'm actually living, you know?
You got it. I want to say, it's a two-part question.
Yeah.
What's the biggest thing that you feel like you've applied from like DMV and DC culture, and then what's the biggest thing? Yeah, what's the biggest thing you feel like you've taken from and applied from New York culture?
I think DC taught me to not be scared of anyone.
I can see it.
Like, because especially when you're forced to take the metro at 14 years old, you could leave the house one day and you're liable to get joned on by a group of middle schoolers, and there's your self-confidence. You could get joned on by somebody in your class or at your lunch table. Like, it's just
joning for people that's not in DC. Joning is cutting edge.
So you took the context.
Like, for real. And if it's not Joan culture, it's square up culture. Like, you can't talk reckless to people if you're not ready to fight, period. So, like, being able to, like, stand my ground in a way where I knew, okay, I don't want this to end in violence, but I also want you to know you have me fucked up. So I think being able to navigate that in a way that didn't necessarily compromise how I was raised, because y'all can tell I'm not a street bitch. I'm very much suburban girl. So yeah, just being able to just like create boundaries for myself and like stand up for myself in a way that doesn't compromise who I am. Not being too green. I feel like if I went straight from Virginia or Maryland to New York, oh my god, I would have been. DC definitely helped.
You was around in DC, like I said.
I was outside.
You was outside. I can vouch for
at
it.
a young age,
I can vouch for it.
Like helped prepare me for the fast-paced lifestyle. And then I think New York gave me business etiquette and taught me not to waste time. I think there's a lot of things that people do in smaller cities where capitalism is still prevalent, but in different industries. So if you're in a city that's like very much agriculture or politics or auto industry, or whatever the fuck's going on in your city, everyone's good in your city's interest is just gonna be vested towards that. Versus like New York is a hub for the arts and entertainment and media and fashion and culture and art and nightlife and everything in between. So I feel like because I'm right there in such close proximity and I was able to really try and insert myself in these spaces just to watch, just to catch a vibe, I realized like, yo, I thought she was going one way back home, but it's actually going a whole other way that white people and people in these spaces are gatekeeping. Like, they're not making this information readily accessible for you to know how to come into a random meeting with this type of person or with that type of person.
So you saying that like it's
literally having
it's
centrality.
access to DC, but it's just like people are like holding it like to themselves.
No, I think there's just not access to this type of information in Washington, D.C. because there's not this type of industry. Like, there's no real media creative agency outside of like the random stuff that like maybe like a Howard alum or like Rock Creek Social Club or something. Like, there's not really like a CAA or a WME in Washington, D.C. or like a huge label that F-word. There's no QC in D.C. Like,
Right.
You know, so I think
But it's little shit going on.
It's just super DIY in DC. Like they just hold it down for themselves and for each other. Like
that when you're literally dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars generated by these conglomerates at this point, like it's just a different ballpark. You're creating revenues for neighborhoods. Yeah. Like it's whole people like down to the people, the maintenance staff, the interns, the secretaries, the A&Rs, the staff, like everybody, the board members. Like the trickle down is real and it's expansive down to like countries all over, not countries, cities all over the country, and actually countries all over the world too, because they have different headquarters overseas type shit, you know? That's not prevalent in DC. If you're not working in private sector, finance, politics, or lobbying. So, or like some type of government agency.
And that's one of those things I feel like people have to spend time in DC to really see like the rankings and shit.
The thing is, like, a nigga from Cleveland Avenue could literally walk down the street and randomly see Thug home one day, and Key, and damn. And then that nigga could be in a good mood. Then those niggas could randomly be in a good mood, take out $100 and be like, go to the studio, I want you to do this and such, put you on game, I love you. The thing is, that's been going on for like decades because this industry's been booming since the 90s, the 80s. Like, you know, this shit's been going. Even Philly, like, y'all have been doing shit for a very long time.
That's a whole other 10-minute conversation.
The thing is, y'all have more visibility, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah. There's no little Uzi Vert in Washington, D.C. I'm sorry, there's not. There's not. I love Washington, D.C. I love all of my rappers from back home.
I'm running through my brain right now, but I get what you're saying.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
But it's a
impact. Think about the global impact. And that's what I mean. There's no real global impact.
But just go back to niggas bringing it back home. Like, I was just listening to Brent Fires was on the shit with Pharrell talking about he about to go on these.
And then Pharrell saying, the DMV is
like, everybody want now.
Niggas been saying that for years, though.
Exactly. That's another thing. There's always, we're gonna bring everything back home. DC up next. And it never happened. It's been going on. Listen, since I was in high school, since I was like 14 years old, rap niggas been like, DC's about to be next. No, DC's going to be next when you actually invest in the community. Not when you feel like showing up for a photo op in your neighborhood, but literally like, I'm putting money in these little kids' pockets. I'm creating studio spaces. I'm helping the community. I'm fucking helping moms pay their bills, or helping the schools afford books, or buying these kids laptops because we're in a pandemic and half the South Side, I'm sure, niggas have money, but like, there's still a whole fucking crisis right now economically, and a lot of DC's poor, PG County's poor, Baltimore's poor, is being neglected because of it. The government never gave a fuck about us, and never gave a fuck about poor people. So as a byproduct, my G, you have to be aware that there is a ceiling. There is absolutely a ceiling unless you are in a hub like New York, LA, Chicago, Miami, Atlanta. Sometimes Houston too. And why? Because there are labels with legitimate figures making moves and generating hundreds of millions of dollars. That's it.
No, we thank you for bringing that passion.
I fuck with this one. This is good one.
I already said it from the jump, but I already know you somebody that stands for something. That's why I know I wanted to I'm glad we started off with your name change and that people had a chance to really see the shit you care about and that you do care. You know what I mean? You was probably young and just ready to buck back, but you really do care. I'm glad you was able to display that. And if there's anything you got coming up and that you want people to look out for or know about, you can shout it out, or you just want people to follow you and tune in.
Yeah, just follow me on Instagram. It's my first name, Dylan, Bob Dylan, Ali, Muhammad Ali, _ at the end, until I'm confident enough to hit somebody at these platforms and get my government. Yeah, so that's it. And I don't have anything cool yet that I can formally announce because they're just a bunch of personal projects. But spring is looking cute, so
spring is looking real good right now. I'm feeling the vibes, very bounce back, very let's get it. Thank you, guys.